let's get back to that very important conversation with Bismarck Rewane, the CEO at Financial Derivatives Company and Channels Television Economic Counselor. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane. We have you loud and clear. Thank you,
yes.
Mr. Rewane. So let's bring...
Like I was saying earlier, you see...
Yeah, Mr. Rewane, I just want us to move quickly to this very big elephant in the room, which is the exchange rate practices in Nigeria and some of the things that the IFC and the IMF are brought out in that dialogue. You were there all through.
Yes. First and foremost, let's understand one thing. Trading, 18.5% of Nigeria's GDP is for wholesale and retail trade. So once you expand trading and its implications, it actually will boost growth. But for every trade transaction, it has to be settled, especially when you are settling across countries. So the currency practices are also very important. What came out of that discussion was that the IMF and the IFC and ETI all kind of agreed that it was time to start reducing the multiplicity of rates and ensuring that we have an efficient foreign exchange market. The central bank did clarify that what we have is also moving in that direction because the effective exchange rates are about the same as the IE window. So in other words, the central bank is not against a unified exchange rate, it's only the pace of doing it. So I think we are all aligned. That is the Central Bank of Nigeria, the fiscal team, or the federal government of Nigeria, the multilateral agencies. We are all aligned on one, that we should have, we should embrace the African Continental Free Trade Area Pact. Two, that we should use the opportunity to tidy up and have some structural changes to our foreign exchange market. And three, we should seek to reduce the number of protectionist measures that we have as time goes on, because it is inconsistent with the African free trade spirit and letter of that agreement.
Exchange rate is a very big elephant in the room, Mr. Rewane. So what are the takeaways here when it comes to exchange rate practices? What are the short, medium to long-term issues we need to consider?
Well, what has happened is that if you look at it, the external reserves are at about $45 billion. Our terms of trade are moving positively. I think we still have the firepower to deliver in an efficient market. All we need to do is to actually eliminate the 305 rate, because that 305 rate, which is used by oil companies, is not the actual rate. We need to eliminate that so that the effective rate, everything is unified. And we should be able to do that before the end of this year or early next year, so that way everybody benefits, the economy is in equilibrium, and you'll find that it make life easy for the central bank and the banks in Nigeria to perform based on that. I see no problem at all with altering and tinkering with the exchange rate methods that we have today to make it, to unify it and desegment the market as we speak.
One part of what was agreed was that...
Okay.
Yes, one of the things that was agreed and discussed was the need for cohesive fiscal policy reforms, a cocktail, if you want to put it, between the handshake between monetary and fiscal policy.
Yes, I think we saw that, and that's why it was very open, full and frank discussion. There was no about the IFC, the IMF, the vice president's team, and the central bank came out very clearly, and you could see that the areas of difference were very minimal, which was the healthy. That's why it was called a colloquium, rubbing of minds, so that we could achieve this. I think that in the follow-up conference, which we'll have soon, you will find that a lot of these things will be interrogated, and that we will achieve much more than we think. I think the areas of difference are much lower than the areas of agreement. So the complementarity of fiscal and monetary policy is being achieved. Now that we will have a fiscal team after the ministers have been given their portfolios, we will know exactly what to do, and I have no doubts in my mind that we are on a positive trajectory at this time.
Okay, so finally, how do we proceed from here, Mr. Rewane? Yes, we're going to have a cabinet, but again, the clock is ticking. We're starting the month of August tomorrow. Nigeria could as well be the gateway and the hub for the new AFCFTA, but we don't have all the time. Other countries are moving on. So what do you think we can achieve in the very short to medium term?
Well, the president announced the appointment of a committee to implement this African Continental Free Trade, but there were no names. We just said the committee has been set up. We don't have time. That's the thing. Nigeria, the world is not waiting for us. We have to move as fast. So urgency is there, and I think everybody, you could see the urgency was captured both by the central bank, by the banks, by the multilateral agencies. Everybody is saying that, look, we've got to do something rapidly to take advantage of this opportunity, because it doesn't take long before you will get you will get into all sorts of problems. But one other thing, though, is that the ECHO, there's a currency called the ECHO, which is supposed to be kicking off in January 2020. My honest opinion is that we are not ready for a common currency in the ECOWAS region yet, and that will take a number of years. You will have to have a customs union that is efficient with moving goods before we get to a currency. It took 45 to 50 years to move from a customs union to a common currency in Europe. So I don't want anybody to be deceived that because we have agreed on a common currency called the ECHO, that's going to take off in January. It will not take off in January. To be honest with you, it's another pie in the sky.
Pie in the sky. Thank you so much, Bismarck Rewane, the CEO at Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you so much for your time. Also, Channel Television Economic Consultant. Okay, let's we'll talk about the markets in minutes. Temple Ashaju is getting ready to feed us in today's trading day. It's a final trading day for the month of July, but of course, it's still the earnings seasons and the numbers are coming through. And of course, just coming in. 6 months numbers from Champion Breweries PLC, one of the small cap brewers listed in our consumer goods space of the market. Under that, you have the breweries. The company reporting very jumbo numbers for the first 6 months of this year. Champion Breweries reporting a gross profit of 640.1 million naira, which is about 100% above 347 million naira reported in the first 6 months of last year. Headline revenue coming in at 1.626 billion naira. That's about 600 million more than what was reported in the same period of last year. If you're looking at net profit, this is quite good for Champion Breweries. Almost 100 billion, 99.1 billion, 99.1 million naira was reported 6 months of this year. Last year, the first 6 months of 2018, Champion Breweries reported 13.09 million naira. This is getting as big as it can get for this brewer listed on the market. Earnings per share, basic and diluted EPS, 1 naira 27 kobo against 17 kobo, which was reported in the same period, 6 months of last year. This is one big story from Champion Breweries PLC. This is one of the sweet numbers coming through. Yesterday we talked about bittersweet earnings. Some of the earnings, in particular from the banks, are not looking as much as cheerful as it were yet. Yesterday, FBN Holdings reported its numbers, and it wasn't looking really exciting as it were. So perhaps that turned investors' appetite negative on the banking sector, booking 0.72% on the banking sector index yesterday. We're on the lookout for the big names in the banking sector. Of course, Access Bank says it's going to do 30, or just concluded 30 billion tier 2 bond. That was massively oversubscribed. That is one big news that everyone is looking at. Will the earnings justify that? Of course, the bank says it was going to do a bit of debt raisings in the run-up to the merger or acquisition of Diamond Bank, a PLC. All that is coming into play. So the big banks are the ones that we're looking at for as we start the new trading day. The big story, of course, will be around GT Bank, Zenith, UBA, and Access Bank. So, and of course, Zenith Bank, wouldn't forget that. So the big five or the big six, including Stanbic IBTC, will be in everybody's crosshairs as we step into the new month of August tomorrow, and we'll see how this early birds report to the market. Already we have FCMB and FBN Holdings in Kitty. This is some of the earnings stories you'll be looking at for today. But what's the big story from the global space? The U.S. Open Market Committee, the FOMC decision today. Jerome Powell will be making a briefing later today. And of course, you can monitor that. What's the outlook on that? Fed fund rate is expected to be down 0.25% for the first time since the end of the global economic recession in 2008. This will be the first time that the U.S. Central Bank will be cutting the Fed fund rate. So the outlook, consensus among the biggest banks in the world and in the U.S. in particular is between 2% to 2.25%. That will be the new Fed fund rate, the outlook for today. 0.25% cutback. All that is expected to ease money and, of course, pull investors' appetite into emerging markets. And a bit of that could drop into our market, Nigerian market, which is a frontier market. But you've seen what some analysts are saying. United Capital believed that we need more to be done in the local market to get investors' appetite into the equities market. Whatever happened, United Capital says fixed income will still be a big play in the market for the second half of the year.